Hey everybody, my name's Ed. Okay, so we're going to do another trade review. So this time it is going to be The New Frontier, written and illustrated by Darwyn Cooke. It's been released in multiple formats. The original six issue miniseries is from 2004. I have two trades from 2004 and 2005. There's been a couple deluxe editions released over the years, and there was a DVD animated version that came out in 2008. Okay, so here are mine. Okay, so the story is basically about the change over from the end of World War II and the end of the Golden Age to the beginnings of the Silver Age. The story blends comics histories with real world history and mostly takes place in real time. So we see how popular older heroes like Superman, Batman, Wonder Woman have to adapt to the changing times. We see the emergence of newer heroes like the Flash and the Green Lantern. We also see the bridge between a generation of now obscure adventure teams like the Losers, Suicide Squad, Challengers of the Unknown, and there's lots of cameos by both popular and obscure DC characters. There's a strong nostalgia pull, but not exclusively so. So let's get into it a little bit. All right. Okay, so Darwyn Cooke has a long history in commercial art, animation, and comics. He's done storyboards for TV shows such as The New Adventures of Batman, Superman the Animated Series. He's done comics such as Batman Eagle, the Parker graphic novel crime series, and Jonah Hex. And he's also done Before Watchmen, Minutemen, and the writing for Before Watchmen, Silk Spectre. All right, so okay, so the plot more or less has to do with is World War II has ended and the Cold War is starting up. So McCarthyism and the Red Scares forced the first generation of superheroes to move on, with the exception of Superman, Wonder Woman, and Batwoman. UFO paranoia is a thing. Space races in the early days. A new generation of heroes is getting their starts. We see the old heroes try to navigate politics and the new heroes discovering their place in the world of the late 1950s. Okay, so to give a little bit more context, this comic book is this story pretty much covers what's known as the Silver Age of comics. So in real life, the Silver Age comics started roughly around 1956 or so. That was the debut of the Barry Allen Flash and continued till around 1970-ish. This comic starts in around the end of World War II, around 1945, and covers a time period leading up to roughly around 1960 or so. Basically, after World War II, superhero comics fell out of favor with the general public, exceptions literally being Superman, Wonder Woman, and Batman. Other genres of comics like war, horror, romance, sci-fi had taken over, and Silver Age is considered pretty much the rebirth of superhero comics. So adventure themes and sci-fi were big in the 50s and pop culture in general. So the New Frontier blends them with the superhero community. In those days, many folks actually seemed to know each other in a believable way. So you have Hal Jordan knowing Ace Morgan from the Challengers and being recommended to the space program, or Hal meets Colonel Flag from the Suicide Squad. Lois Lane and Jimmy Olsen being embedded with U.S. soldiers in Korea and meeting Hal. Selena Kyle being friends with Ted Grant, who's Wildcat, Ollie Queen, and Bruce Wayne are at a charity function that's been raided by Captain Cold and saved by the Flash. Colonel Flag is also there. There's many other cameos and references. You see the Blackhawks, the Sea Devils, Adam Strange, John Henry, the Follower of Steel, Doc Magnus, who will create the Metal Men, Ray Palmer, who will become the Silver Age Atom. Having said that, it's not crucial to know the whole history of the DC universe to understand the story, but the more you know, probably the more you appreciate the little connections. Now, there's mentions of the Red Scare and the Civil Rights Movement, and while they're not at the forefront, they're definitely part of the world that the characters live in. The characters are having issues related to dealing with the political situations of the day. Many of the characters are dealing with the fallout of World War II, current North Korea war, and I believe the emergent Vietnam conflict. So let's see here. Hang on. Okay, so I think ultimately the New Frontier is trying to be a story that's saying something about heroism, patriotism, bravery, and camaraderie. The characters believe in the ideas of America, but are not blind to its flaws. Characters are placed in tough situations, but find a way to rise to the occasion, even to the point of self-sacrifice. Characters stick up for their friends, even when others turn against them. A decent chunk of it is about the journey of Hal Jordan. We meet him as a kid, then as a Korean War pilot who doesn't want to kill but is forced to, then as a test pilot who has potential but is doubted, and then finally as a man who steps into his role as a superhero. We've got, of course, the older heroes like Superman. He's a hero who believes in the American government but is forced to question it. Wonder Woman is a hero who walks away from the government but has to come back to America for help. Batman is a dark hero who has to kind of tone down his image in order to be a hero for children. It's also kind of worth noting that during the late 80s and 90s, we had the grim and gritty era, I should say. But then we get stuff like this in the mid to late 90s, where you start getting comics that were a reaction to all of that grim and gritty stuff. So you get Kingdom Come, you get the Marvels, you get Alan Moore's take on Supreme, of course, this comic right here. And that's when the big two were kind of dialing back their cynicism. All right, so so moving along a little bit here. Now, Darwyn Cooke's work seems to be, or artwork, I should say, seems to be heavily influenced by a number of artists, but probably most notably guys like Kirby, Toth, perhaps Bruce Timm's. But Tim, you look at Bruce Timm's art, it's very Kirby influenced as well. It's blocky, cartoony, but he clearly understands real world anatomy and perspective. His art's very fluid and kinetic. His action scenes are very dynamic. His faces are able to convey a variety of emotions, and Cook's staging can express feeling even if the scene isn't necessarily active. Lots of bold, strong line work, not tons of cross acting, but lots of heavy shadows. Just really great design work and composition work. All right, so let's just take a look. Okay, so just to give you kind of a quick glance at what some of the art looks like. All right. So Darwyn, on one hand, has this kind of quasi pseudo semi cartoony look, but at the same time, it's pretty representational. He's able to get some of these classic chiseled looks from some of his male characters, female characters are pretty old school glamorous. So you got that, like I said, retro vibe, which is totally appropriate here. But you also see him do this big superhero stuff where you have these impressive angles, right? These big panels. This also kind of fits into the whole sort of so-called. Uh, Oops, I don't want to give too much away. But so-called widescreen format that was happening in the mid late '90s. Or yeah, that's what I want to say. With stuff like the Authority, the Ultimates, and some of the other kind of big team comics that were happening at the time. All right. But again, like I said, I really like that the guy knows a thing or two about being able to draw actual, real life items and clothes, and he knows how fabric works and whatnot. So, okay, all right. So we're gonna move on here. Okay, so New Frontier is an amazing comic. It's got great art. It's nostalgia that blends comic book history with real world history in a fascinating way. It has a couple of missteps as far as being continuity heavy, but it is an uplifting comic that reinvigorates the reader's belief in superheroes and taps into an uncynical connection to the past. Other comics that came out during the same time, or such as Kingdom Come and Marvels, have a similar effect and help the readers see beyond the grim and gritty trend of the era. You could probably throw in All Star Superman as well. Now, I wouldn't call it an innocent look at the past, but it does embrace a certain amount of patriotism in the human heart and a willingness to do good. Okay, so that's it. Thank you very much for watching. I do appreciate it. And you guys all have a great day.